إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين فنصلي عليه في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى يا رب العالمين. أوصيكم نفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Brothers and sisters, we can never overstate the concept of praise and gratitude as the basis for what it means to be a Muslim. And that is what we will talk about in detail today. Where did our souls come from? Where did we come from? And when we recognize that, what kind of a life should we lead? That opening, what we call khutbat al-hajjah, the opening paragraph the Prophet, peace be upon him, often began his sermons with, it is basically summing up that concept in one way. I will sum it up in a different way, and I will start by just telling you where spirituality first became my priority after I had embraced religion. And this is an interesting construct that a lot of people don't differentiate between, but it's important that we do. Religion is basically recognizing God and His oneness and knowing that you owe God. Spirituality is to love living that life. Is it clear? Inshallah. So after I had converted to Islam in 1998, it was in late 1999, the year 2000, and I had been reading the Quran and believing that this is the book that God had sent down to His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But spirituality had not become my style of religion yet. I had just become philosophizing the truth of God and embracing it through knowing His revelation. That's religion and philosophizing. Spirituality really started when I met one of my first mentors as a believer, and it is important that all believers take mentors. You don't have to necessarily make it official and give like a bay'ah or something, but you can basically look up to people and hang around them, spend time around them, and see that their character, their spirituality is flourishing and thriving much better than your own, and so you look to be affected by their example. This is the model the Prophet set with all of his companions. Alayhim Ridwanullah. Alayhim. So I met this man who was the principal of the Islamic school, and I got to know him well through the way he acted, through the way he spoke. I started to get the feeling from him over and over, time and time again in different situations, that he was not doing anything or saying anything that I could perceive for what people may think. He was void of the politics of interaction with people. He was just simply doing what he thought was right, that he had known through studying scripture is the best thing to do. And if he had done something wrong, he was quick to realize it and feel bad about it. He was someone always giving and taking advices. I came to find out about this man that him and his wife worked very hard to have one child because for whatever reason, the divine order of things, they were not having children. So he became focused on a school. He actually got a degree in engineering from the University of Oklahoma. And then he decided when he had gotten into the community not to pursue engineering. He saw that they had an Islamic school that did not have any sort of leadership or professional structure or spirituality in it. So he put his whole life into this Islamic school. That was brand new, it was struggling, it probably had 30 students, it was just a brand new project. Alhamdulillah, today that school is accredited. It has about 180 students, and it's K through 12, and it's doing well. I came to find out that this guy, because he wasn't having children, he basically made a deal with the management. He was the one going around doing fundraising outside of town and in town himself to make sure that this project would succeed. And then I came to find out that he basically said, all I need is you to pay towards me to be able to buy a condominium local within literally footsteps of the school so that I can live here and focus on this. Other than that, I just need my basic necessities. The guy was making peanuts, what we would say today. And that was his decision. I was the PE teacher at this school, and I saw him cleaning bathrooms and mopping floors. I saw him teaching classes, different classes that needed to be taught because they didn't have an accredited trained teacher, and he has his degree in engineering. And I watched how he interacted with people. And I noticed that he's just always trying to do what's right based upon his knowledge of revelation. So what I'm here to talk about is the motives and intention behind actions differ from person to person and from situation to situation. The truth is, no one truly knows what anyone's intentions are except for God and the person who has the intention. Some people do things to fit in with other people. That's why they do what they do, even in terms of religion. Some people do things because they're looking to gain prestige or some sort of legacy or wealth or influence. And yet others are true Muslims. They do things as acts of devotion to God, seeking closeness to Him and His pleasure by what they do. I've been asked many times when talking about the concept of sincerity and devotion, why isn't it just good enough to just try to do the right thing because it's the right thing? The question is, who decides what is the right thing? That's the question. So, if we are to rely upon society for what is the right thing, all societies throughout history, including today's Muslim societies, have decided certain things are acceptable and normal that are not normal and acceptable according to divine revelation. And those became, so if you function on that system, you will fail and you will be a product of the sinful environment of this world and the basic influential figure of this world, who is the shaitan, who is calling to an attachment to this world and your body and what it likes in this world. So, we have revelation that was sent for this purpose. It centers our mind in the truth of our soul with guidance from the Creator Himself. The concept of divine oneness is about realizing that all things' existence, function, and purpose come from God alone. As human beings, we are distinct from all other creations with free will based upon a conscious, intellectual, creative mind. This is why every person in history has asked about existence, purpose, and meaning of life. This is basically the process of souls using their minds to seek revelation. As we realize it, and then we bear witness to it, then we must stay focused in our connection to the oneness of God by word and deed. This is done by genuine sincerity towards Him, seeking to live according to His guidance. This is what we call devotion. The concept of sidq, ikhlas, and taqwa are all best summed up together as devotion. Genuine sincerity seeking truth and a desire to protect one's soul in it. This is devotion. We must consciously be seeking the pleasure of God, which can only be achieved through knowing and following His guidance that He sent. And so in the construct of the story of Adam that we have read in the Quran, He makes this point crystal clear many times in the Quran. فَإِمَّا فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى فَمَن تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. So he told Adam and Eve, after they became the khulafa, the responsible authorities on this earth, he has charged them with this responsibility, conscious awareness and the responsible reality. So he said, so when my guidance comes to you, and in another one, rusulun minni, messengers come with my guidance, then whoever tabi'a hudaya, whoever would follow after means two things, to seek it and to live by it. Tabi'a. It's called a tabi'een. They learned from the companions and they followed their example. That's why they're called the tabi'een. And so that is what we are called to do. So now we can gauge where we're at in this process. Allah has brought you all here to hear these ayahs and these hadith and this very fundamental concept of what it means to be Muslim that I hope all of us and our children could readily explain to anyone, Muslim or non-Muslim, if asked, what is Islam all about? That's really what we're getting to the bottom of right here. Most young people are raised here, when you ask them, Islam is some rules and regulations based on a religion. That's basically how they're going to explain it. And that doesn't sound too appealing, and it's actually not a correct understanding. It's much deeper than that. It's the essence of the truth of all existence and how our souls fit in it as conscious beings of the divine. So this is what we're called devotion to God. Utbah ibn Abi Rabi'a one time was sent to the Prophet ﷺ after Hamza and Umar had become Muslim. And now you have powerful, respectable people in Mecca embracing this religion. And so the Quraysh decided to let bygones be bygones and try to, because they said, you know, Muhammad is a good guy, everybody seems to like him, so let's go offer him a deal he can't resist. So Utbah goes to the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Muhammad, listen here. All the stuff about the idols are terrible and no, they're not real and we should not pray to them and they have no power and our ways require some reform and you're going to be resurrected. All of these things, we don't need all of this. We understand that you are a good man. So here, how about we make you a person with the most wealth among us? If you want wealth, we'll give you wealth. They agreed, Quraysh had agreed. Authentic hadith. They agreed, let's just make him the richest man and let's be done with it. He said, if it's not wealth that you're looking for, we will make you our king. We will establish, there was no king in the history of the Quraysh, by the way. Well, many generations before, but this is not their culture. But they're willing to do that. Because they see him as a good guy. Outside of his beliefs and this revelation, he'd be a great person for this. So let's make you our king. And so then he said, whatever you need, we can take care of it. Please just stop with all of this stuff. He's reasoning with it. The Prophet ﷺ, you've heard actually a false narration, it's very common, Shem, the sun and the moon, that has no real authentic. Well, the Prophet did say in the authentic hadith, he said, you see the sun right there? They said, yeah. He said, I can't leave for any reason this message that I'm called to and my service to God any more than you can take some fire from that sun and light something up right here. It's impossible. I could not, no matter what you offered me, which is 100% proof that he's not a false prophet. False prophets are narcissists. They want everything to be about them. They want to be the most powerful, the most wealthy, the center of attention. They are offering him all of that and more. If he was a false prophet, this is I've reached my, that's it, let's take it. Or at least make a deal with them. Prophet ﷺ was very firm in his sincere devotion to God above all worldly things. You see, this is what the secret of the generation of the Prophet is. So a lot of people say, Imam, mashallah, you converts are amazing. You chose Islam in the land of the disbelievers. Why praise that and not try to seek to be it? There is no reason why not all of us can restart our process of spirituality, exchange a cultural inheritance of religious practices, and embrace by knowledge, by seeking truth, a way of life that is based on knowledge and sincerity alone and not any tribal affiliation. Meaning, if there was nobody from my tribe, I would feel very comfortable being who I am, and I would seek others like that, and it would not mean that we needed to be similar in our skin tone or our language or the way food we eat or whatever it may be. That was the secret of why the Prophet ﷺ said the companions are the best. He said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِي يَلِي ثُمَّ الَّذِي يَلِي. He said, the best of all people, the best generation of mankind is my generation. Me and my companions here. Then after that, then after that. So why is that? I will tell you why that is. Because each generation, they get further from embracing Islam based upon a sincere desire to know the truth. And it became more of an inherited, taken for granted reality of cultural religion. As a result of that, it loses its strength and greatness. And so that was the secret of the success and the greatness of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. They were ready and willing, as the Prophet ﷺ was, to lose all respect and tribal affiliation and acceptance and power and wealth, because they had come to recognize the truth of their soul's very existence and its purpose, and they were willing to do whatever they had to do in devotion to God. So when we look at Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he became very upset that these people are, saying terrible things about the Prophet ﷺ and this truth. And they are worshipping idols at the Kaaba, the place of Abraham. So he said, let me go read the Quran there. They said, you know what they might do to you. Abdullah, don't do this. He said, it must be announced, this truth. It must be known, this truth. It's not that we can just, keep to ourselves, be the Muslims over here, and those are the kuffar, and we don't want to mix up with them. And the fears and concerns about all of that. That is not the attitude of the Prophet ﷺ or his companions. That is secularism. We don't do secularism. And so the Abdullah Mas'ud went there and read the Quran. They beat him until you couldn't tell his face. He came back and said, see what happened? He said, I'm going back tomorrow. His soul means much more to him than his body. And the fact that the whole society has normalized evil and corruption is deeply disconcerting to him. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, radiallahu, he comes from very far, searching for the truth. And he meets the Prophet ﷺ, and he listens, and he said, and he feels, and he sees, and he ratifies the truth of his soul and the oneness of all existence. And so then, he says, I'm going to go announce that I'm a believer at the Kaaba. And then the companion said, this is a very bad idea. He said, okay. He went there, Ashhadu an la ilaha. They beat him so bad. And then he went on back to his tribe as the Prophet ﷺ asked him, broken the. So what happened to you? He said, I announced to the people. They know Abu Dharr. He's actually a very intellectual man. He's a very, strong-minded man. That's why he came to listen for himself. So Uqba bin Abi Rabi'ah, whenever he said that to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the Prophet ﷺ said, you can't do that anymore, I can't do that anymore, then you can take some flame. So then Abu Talib said something very interesting. He said, مَا كَذَبْنَا ibn أَخِي قَطْ فَارْجِعُوا مَكَانَكُمْ. He told them, you have never known my nephew to tell you a lie. So just leave him alone. Here's what's interesting. What he's saying is, I don't get it and I'm not embracing it. But this person is not the problem. قَدْ نَعْلَمُ إِنَّهُ لَيَحْزُنُكَ الَّذِي يَقُولُونَ فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يُكَذِّبُونَكَ وَلَكِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ يَجْحَدُونَ. If you read the Quran and you read the Seerah and you compare them, you will see a walking Quran, and that is not just a statement of Aisha. That's a fact. The ayah says, God is telling the Prophet, we and the royal we, that this knowledge we are embracing and explaining to you all right now as believers is consequential. We know that you are very saddened and upset about what they're all saying. But they are actually not rejecting you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning, your character, who you are among them, they all know it. They have no way. And that is one of the essences of the truth by which he can bear this message, because his character before he received it, it empowered him. If he's some shady guy with lies and, bad business, he would not be an example. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was that example, and alhamdulillah, we need to be that example. So when you read Surah Al-Ikhlas, you are getting the story that Allah is one and He doesn't have daughters and sons and mothers and fathers, and there's nothing like Him. That's the general idea. But let me give it to you in a different way. According to Ibn al-Manzur, Ibn Manzur was a great scholar from Cairo. And he later settled in Tarabulus in what is now modern-day Libya. Back then they didn't have these terms. And so he basically was a great scholar that formulated a 9-volume treatise of Arabic dictionary, encyclopedic dictionary. It's called Lisan al-Arab, the tongue of the Arabs. If you were to ask any scholar of the Islamic sciences or the Arabic language, what's the best dictionary to go to get a deep understanding of words? They'll say, Lisan al-Arab. Ibn Manzur, under Hamza, Lam, Ha, he describes the word Allah where it came from. And he uses a reference from Sibawayh. Sibawayh was a Persian child of converts in the 140th year of Hijrah, 1300 years ago, who was known as the greatest scholar of the Arabic language, who founded the sciences of grammar and morphology. He says, this word originally was al-ilah, كان ثقيلا على ألسنة العرب فأسقطوا الهمزة. It went from al-ilah to Allah. By Sibawayh Ibn Manzur's chosen understanding of this word, contrary to the common idea that this is like a divine name of God known in heaven in all languages, they're saying, no, this is just a word in Arabic that Arabs invented on their own by their own experience of human language. And it means the worshipped entity. So if we're to look at Surah Al-Ikhlas through that lens of knowledge, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say, He is the worshipped entity, the one and only. Describing to you who God is. God's not like a guy like me and you. He's not Bill or Joe. He's not Ahmed or Rashad. He is Lahul Asma'ul Husna. He is described in many ways, all equally describing what you need to know about Him. Say, He is the worshipped entity, the one and only. The worshipped entity is the one that everyone needs, and yet He needs none of them. He was not born, nor does He take part in the process of birth. And there is nothing like Him. In defining the reality of the divine, now you know what everything is coming from and where it is ultimately responsible. So praise and gratitude and responsibility are cultivated through knowing this surah. And as we have embraced this process of devotion, the natural next step is seeking to perfect it, which is a lifelong process that nobody ever finished, except for the Prophet ﷺ. But all the rest of us, we will always come up short. But we have to have that yearning for excellence, to be better, to find our mistakes and our flaws and our shortcomings, and through knowledge of Him and His revelation, to get closer to Him, to be better, to grow. Because He is the one, الَّذِي أَحْسَنَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقًا. He is the one that perfected and beautified everything that He created. We say khalq, created. Khuluq is something that is developed in creation. And so akhlaq comes from khalq in that your character is coming from creation, but it needs to be cultivated. From where? From al-Khaliq. If you think deeply about what I'm talking about. Okay? So the more you know your Khaliq, your creator, and you know His many qualities and descriptions, kind, generous, loving, compassionate, just, and so on, then you will become a living example of that, more and more. And that is what it means to have excellence, is to keep striving to know those things and to increase. We will all have shortcomings. We need to fill in those gaps through knowing Him in all of His qualities and descriptions and living a life that reflects that. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ إِذَا عَمِلَ أَحَدُكُمْ عَمَلًا أَن يُتْقِنَهُ. That's why if you're going to do anything, spiritually or generally, do it to the best of your ability. Allah will love that. That's why He says, وَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. The foundation is to serve in devotion to God alone and none other. Then after that, the next step is وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى, and so on. Now you have to have excellence and beautify your character in dealing with the closest people, and then the next closest people, and the next closest people to you. And that is how society is made great, through devotion to God, striving for excellence. I've just explained the first two lines of our mission statement. Jazakumullah khair. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So, as we embrace this new year, here at MCC we have a growing team of people who are in devotion to God and striving for excellence. The last part is nurturing American Muslims engaged in the service of society. So this is what we're here to do. We have a mission here, and we are deriving our mission directly from the core fundamental teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The successful model of the Prophet and his companions is what we're trying to revive in a very focused, spiritually spiritual way. And so I hope that we will all join and become members of this organization. Let's take this new year and first start off with our devotion. Let's basically cultivate a better relationship through reading the Quran more often and trying to understand it, and through focusing on making sure we keep our 5 daily prayers, and that we have a deep understanding of those prayers, and we have scriptural reference. I have written a book on Salah. It will be out there. It's for sale, $15. It's a 70-page book that I put together. After 10 years of many questions about things, I figured there's some points that need to be focused on that are not being focused on usually when people pray, and then when people are taught prayer when they are younger. And so I put this book together for those reasons, and that will be a resource for all of us to kind of focus to get our prayers better. Similarly, we have a benefit dinner to build, obviously. One of the things in striving for excellence is putting all of our, if we pooled all of the contributions of the community, we can build a gymnasium with a youth center and a cafe and really start to build this place and have lots of presence of Muslims and non-Muslims, of young and old, of women, of men, on a regular basis, where the spiritual devotion to God is being cultivated in this place, and then the light of Allah is being shown forth as they leave this place. That is our goal. That's what we're trying to do. So we ask Allah to guide us and make us among those who are guided. Ya Allah, give us sincerity, give us genuineness, make us among those who have truly devoted ourselves to you, who realize that the ultimate priority is to you. Ya Allah, forgive us for our sins, forgive us for our shortcomings, our laziness. O merciful, compassionate one, bless us with your mercy and compassion. O just, wise one, make us use wisdom to establish justice on the earth. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us among those who have heard a good word and follow it to the best of our ability, that benefited from your calling for us to come sit here today. May you unify our hearts, make us to see each other as souls who are connected by our testimony in your oneness and the finality of your messenger Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam wa aqim as-salat.